Thanks for coming to hang out with us today. Ruck Up Buttercup is a podcast hosted by Deployed Love. We chat about real things that military families deal with and help you to love the call to action. So you know the drill. Ruck Up Buttercup. Ruck Up Buttercup podcast can be found on all your favorite streaming locations. As well, we are now available on Reach Across America Radio on Fridays at 11 p.m. and Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can find Reach Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. Just search the word Reach. Can't wait to see you there. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ruck Up Buttercup. We are excited to have you with us again, and today we are talking about something that a lot of you veterans who may be listening to us on the Reach Across America Radio are very well aware of, is retirement. I know as a military spouse, it is also something that is going to highly affect your life when you get to that point, because that's your whole life has been revolved around his career, and it's something that we get out or we deal with retirement. And it's a very similar process, but it's a huge transition. We have one of our dear friends, Heidi, who is actually one of the coordinators for Deployed Love last year, with us, who just went through the transition. So she has really good fresh eyes on how that all goes down. So we are excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you.
So we usually start out, especially with military spouse guests, kind of give us your rundown of your life in the military so far.
Okay, so I was active duty Navy. I got out after 4 years and did active reserves, but I've been a military spouse now for 20 years, and it's been a journey. Definitely not one for the faint of heart. A lot of time away. So that's been the biggest challenge, because now we see each other every day, and we both work remote. So we're literally home every day. But we've been here in Norfolk for most of our time so far. We were stationed down in Florida for a little bit, and that was really great. But our whole reasoning for trying to stay in one central location was to have some sort of stability for our kids, which is kind of hard, right, when you are a military family. But we did a year of geo batch. That was interesting. And now we are in the phase of retirement, and we are fresh in that phase as he just retired on July 31st. So it's been a journey to get here for sure. A lot of emotions, good and bad. So
yeah.
Are you guys staying put where you guys are?
We are. We are actually gonna stay here in Virginia Beach. That's where we live. We're going back and forth trying to figure out if we are going to move or not. But then we decided that because my daughter's starting high school, we're okay, well, we'll just stay here at least for 4 more years. So she's an anomaly kid, because her graduating class that she will have started since kindergarten.
Wow.
So it's it's pretty crazy, actually.
That's awesome. That's kind of unheard of for military
yeah.
kids.
But I guess being here, my husband hopped around to a lot of ships. A lot of people that actually live here that are from here. So we've seen the families start from kindergarten, and now we're all headed into high school together. So it's going to be a great journey, I think, for her. I don't know. Some days I'm
I hadn't even realized you had been at Virginia Beach for 20 years.
Yeah. We were here for 4 years, and then we went to Florida, and then we came back here in 2009. So he came here a year ahead of us. We did a year geo batch because we bought our house during the height of the inflation, and then the market crashed. So that was the journey. We've been through a lot. But I think when you get to the end of your career, you kind of just start reflecting, and you're wow, we made it through all of these things that at one point in time we didn't even know how we were going to make it through it, and we made it through. So I don't know, you do a lot of reflection. I think just the past month, we just been we can do anything. We've went through all these hard things, but it is weird, because everyone that I know that's retired is like moving somewhere or like going back to their hometown. And we started to talk about it, but I was like, I don't know. I don't want to move back to Ohio. And he's from New Jersey and he didn't want to move back to New Jersey. So I was like, where is home? And I feel like no matter what, like you have your tribe of people. And so we have a lot of friends here. And I'm like, they're our family. Like I can't imagine like moving away from them. Like we have our families, but like we've been so reliant on like our tribe that I can't imagine life without them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it also like your location is like kind of a different, unique location compared to other bases because it's a very it's large area. Like it's very spread out. Like you have like Virginia Beach, Norfolk, all that, the whole region. So I feel like you can get away from the base and still feel
Yeah.
like disconnected, but still be close enough to still feel that connection. Um, I I was curious if you were, I didn't, because we hadn't talked, because I was curious if you were staying put or not, because you're right. A lot of people go home or will find a job somewhere else and move there and start fresh somewhere else. They rarely stay where their last duty station is, unless like they're from that area, like we are.
But
We would just
yeah,
stay
I feel like that
in
makes
with
the
like,
transition so much easier. I mean,
yeah.
you're not having to start everything over, right? Like you're just having to figure out what the next step is in your home, which is really nice because for us, we were at Hood. When we got out, we didn't retire, but we were like, we are not, this is not an option. Like we had to figure out where the next step was instead of just like, okay, we're out, we're here, let's live here. It was not an option in our mind. Anyway, some people love Hood, but it was just like, no, we have to figure out what the next step was.
So did for you guys, Sabrina, did you guys have a job lined up? Like, or did you guys find the job and that's how you guys determined North Carolina was where you were going to go before you guys went to Germany?
Yeah, he knew he was getting out for a while. Like we were in the transition phase of that. And so he had applied at a ton of places. We were actually applying for Oregon. We really wanted to live West Coast. We were super stoked about it. Just nothing worked out on the actual civilian side because he was overqualified. And that was all we
Yeah.
heard over and over. And it was just like, how's that even possible? Like if we're applying for the position, he understands like it is maybe below like what he's used to doing. But who cares if he's
I hate
overqualified? He wants the job. And so it was so frustrating. And we were getting down to the line of like his days were coming to the end. We did not want to get stuck at Hood for and have to work somewhere near around there. So it came up that the civilian contract came up that it was at Bragg. And he was like, I know nothing about North Carolina. We've never been there. He's like, but we're moving to North Carolina. So it was
I think
wild.
that is the most frustrating thing anybody could ever be told you're overqualified. I don't care if I'm overqualified. Maybe
Right.
I
If
don't
I'm
want
willing
to
to
be in
do
a
it.
position that is my qualification. Maybe I want to have like a relaxing few years after spending 20 plus years or however many years if you're retiring or if you're just, getting out. Maybe I don't want a job
I
where I
know.
have to put that much effort into it. Maybe I want to just be. And I know when my father-in-law got out, he ended up working at a factory that like hired veterans, and he came on like as a shift lead, and that didn't last very long. He ended up looking for another job fairly quickly, but that's where they moved to South Carolina. That's why they moved because he had that job. And then he ended up teaching ROTC at the local high school for a few years until he had to like retire from working because of medical issues. But God, like being
It's
told like
Yeah,
you're
it was
overqualified,
frustrating.
we
And then
can't
we ended
hire
up on the
you.
complete other side of the country from where we were like wanting to live. It's like it was frustrating. And I don't know. I think he still craves to have that just to know what a civilian life was because he's been in since he was 18. So, and now his job is back to what we were doing. Like he got out of the army, but did he really like we still did the same
Yeah,
thing?
he
Yeah.
still does the same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I we already have a plan, even though Jeremy still has 5 more years in. We're really fortunate though for us because we have my parents um started a business a couple years ago, and the plan is to hand off the business to the kids, and then we start running it after they run it for a few years. So like we're lucky that we already know where we're going, and we are really excited about it.
That is exciting. And you guys have a really cool business, and I love that area. It's so beautiful. I was fortunate enough to go visit like your little part of the world last year, so I think That's really
Yeah, the
awesome.
problem is reining in the mother on all the ideas that she has. And she has great ideas, but it's kind of just like we need to focus on some things. So me and my sister kind of just biding our time, and just kind of nodding our head in agreement, like, yeah, that sounds great. We should do that. We shouldn't do that type of thing. For anyone who's ever met my mother, she's a very particular person and she likes things the way she likes them, whether she thinks other people likes them or not. And so, but it's great because we have a family business. We're building family wealth, which is what was really important to us because we come from a really long line of military families. And so we wanted to have something that we could pass on and down the line throughout the years. And so that was really important to my mom, her being a military spouse for over 20 years, working those odd jobs here and there type of thing. And, we've talked about that in previous episodes where, it's hard to be a military spouse and not having anything to show for you when you do retire because either A, you've been working odd jobs or you have been working great jobs. And then if you move again, when you retire, then you're starting fresh to yourself. So, it's exciting to have a little bit something like stable afterwards, but that's not always the case for everybody. And some people get out with no plans, which that blows my mind more than anything is for people to be like, we're going to get out and we're just going to wing it. And the amount of people I've known who've done that and who have come back into service, like maybe not retired out and then come back in, but those who've done their 3-4 years and be like, yeah, we had to come back because we just didn't have a job or we couldn't find a job or we were overqualified or whatever may be the instance. But
That happens a lot.
it happens a lot.
And that was the scariest thing for us. Like, I think when you start to think about the end, right? Because it's like really like the end kind of. That was my biggest thing. I was like, I don't want to have to move into my mom's basement because we can't afford to live. Like, and it happens. Like, you see it all the time on all of those like posts and groups.
Like, who wants to do that when they're in their late 30s, early 40s? I mean, if you've been a military spouse since like 18, 19, 20, and you've done 20 years, that's where you're at. And you're just, no.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
There are people, though, that don't have plans and like not because of lack of plan, but just like, oh, you're being medically retired like tomorrow.
Yeah. And those are things that are unfortunate, like those things that you can't help. And those are definitely circumstances where utilize all those programs that you can, go after that VA benefit and stuff like that and use those programs out there for veterans with disabilities. That's I feel is very different. Like that, like to me, like if you're medically retired and you go home and live with your parents for a little bit or for a while, I mean, again, you have to do what's best for you and your family. Like if that's what's best for you and your family, then do so. But I hope those who are listening who are in their season of going into retirement starts thinking about like what they're going to do, whether, are you going to be able to survive off their retirement pay and the VA benefits? Are you going to be able, is your spouse going to have to go back to work? Has that spouse been out of work for several years? Because I mean, that could be a huge adjustment for the family as well. I know, Heidi, you work.
Huge part right now because you're thinking about how the cost of living is outrageous. There's no way these people who are retiring are able to live exclusively off that. I don't care where you live in the country. They're having to go back to work, and that sucks after doing 20 plus years.
Yeah, like not unless you own your home outright and things like that, and you have no payments. It's going to be very difficult just to live off of that for sure.
Absolutely.
I do know people that do it though, but they're like nomadic kind of like adventurous, and they're like, we're just gonna live in a camper with our kids and travel.
My dad
and
my dad does that. My dad retired. Oh gosh, it's been 8 has it been 8 years? 7. He retired around when Devin was born, so like roughly 7.5-ish years. That man is motorcycling across Thailand, people. Like he is living his best life, taking photos across Thailand on a motorbike right now. Like I talked to him yesterday and he's in the mountains right now of Thailand, and I'm just like, that must be like the life, just to retire and just to go do that. Now granted, my parents divorced and that's all he does. Like he just has no responsibilities, and obviously that's not everybody, but you can do it. He lives off his retirement and his VA benefits.
I know people that do. A lot of them don't have little kids though. Like most of them, their kids are older.
Mm-hmm.
Older,
Yeah.
high school, out of the house, empty nesters, which, for some people, that is, the case. I mean, when Jeremy retires, our kids will still be, like, Devin will be just going into middle school. We had kids later, though, in life. Like, we didn't start until we were 25, 26, which is still early compared to a lot of people, but it's not, he joined at 18, 19. So I think it's definitely different. What is your husband going to work? Did he find it? Like, is he working? Because I know you
yeah,
work.
he is working. He got a job through his skill bridge. So he did skill bridge like the last month that he would actually it was more than a month, maybe it was like 2 months. I don't know, time's kind of blurry, but he did skill bridge, and so like he was able to get picked up by that company after he completed it, which isn't always the case for everybody.
What is
but
skill bridge?
Tell us more about that. I think that's pretty new, right?
Yeah.
It is new. They've changed a lot of the things for it, but so basically your commander of your unit has to sign off on allowing you to be able to leave like temporarily to do this program that it's like you're interning for a company. He did it through Hiring Our Heroes, so they did like a lot of extra stuff on top of that where they had like classes for resume writing and then just like a lot of professional development stuff. And then also they had like companies like pick you up for like depending upon what field you wanted to go into. And it was based out of DC, but he was able to do it from here. The only downfall was like he kind of had to find his own opportunity because here in Norfolk, there's only so many. And so he was able to find this remote opportunity through MCD. And so he went up there, did like an orientation to do the internship, was pretty impressed with the company. They're a smaller firm. They're growing pretty big, growing bigger, I guess, per se, but compared like to other companies, they're a little bit smaller. But he said that like the way that they treated people there, he was like really impressed by like their professionalism, how they were
Probably very different from the service.
It really was like, and I guess like this is his first like real job like after the military, but it's kind of cool because he still works with a lot of people that were in the military that are retired, so there's still like that little community. His recruiter actually is a military spouse that lives in Germany, and she just PCS there, and she was able to keep her job through the company. So that was kind of impressive, like that they actually have that military culture of continuous being able to like PCS and keep your job. But I think for him, he started looking, and it's ironic because he always said he wanted to work at Home Depot after he retired. And so he went and did like an interview and then realized that like because it's shift work, it's very lucrative and it's a good opportunity. So definitely not bashing Home Depot, but you do a lot of like weekends, and like I'm like, if you're retiring, you've been gone, like I don't want any of that. And like
yeah, no.
He did so many interviews. He did an interview through Still, the company that makes like chainsaws and stuff like that. They have a corporation here, and that was like shift work. And I'm like, you have sleep apnea, and like you really need to like get back into a good sleep cycle. So I don't think shift work is, but it's like things he didn't think about. I mean, like I love him to death, but like he took this job, y'all, and I was like, so how much PTO do you get like per year? And he was like, I gotta go back and look at the brochure.
I feel like sometimes they don't think about that stuff, but they didn't for 20 years, they never thought about it. They just were like, oh, we have block leave between this date and this date, and I know I have this much leave because it says on my LES. Like,
yeah, that transition it's weird. I mean, just even from like civilian contracts are very civilian. They are like we have to look at the details before you sign them every 2 years because they change and things change in there. And I think the weirdest thing was insurance, because it's like, oh wait, like that's how much is coming out of my check, because you don't really notice that in your military because it's a different system. And they're like, holy, we're paying so much for insurance. Like, whoa.
Yeah, we all chose TRICARE Select. So when you get out of the military, you have 90 days because it's considered a QLE, qualifying life event.
Mm-hmm.
You have 90 days to pick your TRICARE, which I tried to find like a truth to this, but like his friend retired and he tried to, because they were told him 90 days, right? So he tried to sign his kids up for dental and they're like, you only have 60 days. But like on the website, it says 90. So I don't know, it got resolved, but I was like, they didn't tell us that you only had 60 days for dental. So I don't even know if that's a truth or not, but that's what we found and encouraged, like, other people have encountered. But picking just between select and well, prime and select, that's a whole nother like thing because my kids have only went to military MTFs, military treatment facilities, right? And that's all they've went to. And so then I had to call and trying to figure out like who are we going to get for a PCM that's like quality. Like I don't even know where to begin. I'm still navigating that because my daughter is still young enough that she can go see a pediatrician, but my son's like an adult now. So when you're in an MTF though, you don't think about that, right? Like they're just like, here's your PCM and you just go and like.
Yeah, it is. You have to think of, a lot of different things. I mean, here in Germany, it's even different because their whole medical system is different. So like you don't go to your primary and ask for a referral to places like you normally would. You just pick your specialist that you want to go to and you call
so
and you make an
runs
appointment.
like select.
So it's super weird because it's like, oh, I need an OB. So I waited to get an appointment with my regular doctor and she's like, oh no, you just pick one. I was like,
oh wow.
Pick
one.
I'm
trying to figure out. I actually have to call TRICARE. Speaking of TRICARE, I have to call them because like we just PCS, but we're not near a military installation, so I have to figure out like whether or not they'll do if we have to do select or if we qualify for TRICARE Prime remote. Throw in a third one in there for you guys. Which we had that when we were in Texas, and it was great. Like it operated just like Prime. But I honestly think we're probably going to do select this time around, so I don't have to do the referrals. We'll just obviously have to pay any copays. I'm just hoping copays here are not outrageous.
It's not that bad. So like TRICARE Select, you have like a family cap. So it's like I think for active duty, it's like 350 a year. And once you hit
That's not that bad.
yeah, once you hit that, like you don't pay anymore. So that's not bad. And like, I mean, even like the catastrophic cap, like it's active duty, it's only $1,000 because I was on active duty TRICARE Select, right? So I tapped out like my copays for the year already, and now I'm starting all over again because we retired. But the catastrophic cap is even like increased. It's a lot more. And then like there's group A and group B. And so like with TRICARE, if you fall under like if you're before a certain time frame, you're in group A. If you're after, you're in group B. And like it changes like how much you pay because you have to actually pay for a TRICARE. And it's not a lot, so I'm not complaining whatsoever. I think it's like $25 a month or something to be. Yeah. So that's not bad at all. And then like the TRICARE dental, you go through like FedVip to do that, benefits. But something interesting I learned just from research, like with TRICARE, they automatically cover you for a yearly eye exam. And once you retire, they don't cover you anymore. So
yeah, you have to see like what it like covers. I mean, I feel like that's just a transition anyways, like, having to figure, I mean, you're figuring out life. Like, are you going to stay? Are you going to go? Are you working or not working? Do you have a job lined up? Do you not have a job lined up? And then all those tiny details, health insurance, dental insurance,
life insurance. Life insurance is another one. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Like just
your ID cards.
ID cards. Thankfully, like when you retire, you get your like the retirement ID card, which still gives you access to base and like some of the perks. But you know, like you can still use your ID to go to the travel office and buy your Disney tickets and things like that. Like you still are gonna be able to have those perks with a retirement ID card. But for sure it's I definitely, for people who've been in for so long, I think it's just things that they don't think about. I'm really glad that you guys utilize those programs though that are out there for service members to get their feet wet.
Yeah, I just learned about that
yeah.
skill bridge. One of my veteran friends here was talking about that, and I was like, that was not something that was really offered to Dustin, but I think it's also something that it's because there's so much unemployment post-COVID that they're trying to not let people just get out and have nothing. So they're actually, seems like, especially lower enlisted who are just getting out, they're forcing them into this program because they were like, you need to have something lined up. You can't just get out of the
I'm pretty sure they have to go
military.
take like a class,
The TAPS class, the transition
like a transition
assistance
class, and have to get it signed off as like one of their like paperworks for
Before. Right.
Am I gonna mess this up? ETS, and that's what it's called, right? ETSing.
Yeah, that was basically all Dustin had to do was that CAPS class, but it wasn't really much. And especially at Hood and the way that he transitioned out medically, that they were like, just here you sat in this, just sign this thing saying that you got the class. And it was like he didn't really
wow.
we really didn't know anything about
feel
the
like
transition.
there's so many other programs out there too that you get, like anyone can utilize, like, you know, check in with like my CAA and ask if they have any links and things like that. And there's just so many organizations out there, nonprofits out there that are helping veterans who are in that transition period to find jobs, you know, whether it is to get a job, to give them the resources like resume building, things like that as well. And I feel like there's a lot more now in just the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Heidi mentioned the big one, the Hiring Our Heroes.
Yeah.
Is amazing.
Hiring Our Heroes, yeah.
You can get some of your college done for free on there because they have just courses towards specific things. Like if you're wanting to do cybersecurity or you're wanting to do like IT, there's a lot of courses that you can just take on there because they're trying to push people towards careers that are going to stay, like stable jobs. And yeah, that one's a really, really cool resource. We were just learning about that one too the other day.
Acknell Education is another one too. Like they have a lot of stuff that they offer for courses, like just in general. They have like Coursera. They're always giving like courses for veterans, military spouses, like retirees, active duty. That's a really good one.
But I mean, like, even if you're like, say you guys are, if you're in your like 10th, 12th year and you know that your spouse is going to go for 20 years, encourage them to take college courses now. Like if they haven't taken college courses.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're never too old to do college.
My husband just got his bachelor's degree. Oh gosh, is it going on 2 years? Almost 2 years. Like, wow. Okay, time flies by. But it didn't go into his VA benefits. There's other programs the Army offers for you to take classes while you're in the service and you still have your VA benefit, your GI Bill.
And afterwards. Use the GI Bill. Like if you're getting out and you haven't finished school, like Dustin's using it now, and the like it's so cool because if you have one class, if you have one class in person every semester, they give you full BAH. So that is like covering, you know, living expenses, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a job that you're able to take classes, like 1 class, 2 class, I would 100% recommend it because then you still have your GI Bill to use afterwards, or you can pass it to your kids. Like after a certain period of time, like Jeremy's GI Bill will go towards our kids because he's already got his degree.
That is one thing that we learned getting out is keep an eye on that date, because apparently if you don't do it within a certain time before you get out, which we didn't, I mean, we knew he was coming up, but like we got out pretty quickly because it was medical. So it's like, we didn't have the option to transfer it to our children because by the time we knew that rule, we were already within the, I don't remember what the window is, but it's like 30 or 60 year window.
Change it at any time. See, I'll have to do that because like I feel like
4 years.
I feel like that's changed so many times throughout the last 20 years because I, like, my dad transferred some of it to me and there was no like time frame.
You had to still be active, and it was like some window before you got out of being active.
Yeah, they have a stipulation.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like that means like just make sure you guys are reading up, like if that's something you guys are gonna plan on doing for your family, or if you want to transfer it to your spouse. Because I mean, to me, like if you have a spouse that wants to go back to school, transfer the GI Bill to your spouse, and then you take classes while you're still active duty through the other program. I mean, we didn't pay anything for these classes. They were all online, of course, through one of the colleges that they recommended, but there's programs out there that can set you up for success when you get out, whether it's 4 years or 20 years.
Yeah. I think like the military prepares you so much, right? For like TDYs or like deployments or just training in general. But like the one thing that they lack like is transition, whether it's like getting out of the military or retirement, because our process wasn't like, here is a checklist. Like, yes, there are thousands of checklists, but like, here's a list of X, Y, and Z. Like, it was like really word of mouth is like how we figured out like, okay, we do this, or like just resources and finding those. I know like for the VA benefits, like Tyrone Hewitt, he's on LinkedIn, and like that's where I got like the majority of like VA information. Anna Larson does like a lot of stuff with spouse linked and like transition retirement, so like that information from there. But they do have things like, portraits. I think it's like Portraits for Patriots, where you can get like your headshots, and then just like navigating LinkedIn. Michael Quinn does that program with the USO. So I think the USO has a Pathfinder program. They do encourage spouses to use it. I didn't use it. He went through a portion of it and he said it was phenomenal. But they do it for military spouses. I guess because I was like already in my career and able to, like, he was retiring and I already had a job and we were staying here. It just kind of all worked out. Honestly, if we had a PCS, like I can't even imagine or fathom like that
would have to be really difficult, especially if you don't have something lined up and ready to go. Like, like for us, I feel like it's going to be very easy because we're just going to move home and just kind of, I mean, I already work for the business, so it's just going to be me just being in person rather than virtual. And then just transitioning Jeremy into a job if he wants it. If he doesn't want it, he doesn't have to work. But based off of like, what I would make in his retirement, like we would be okay. Now if he wants to work and have extra money, then he can work too. But the amount of people I've known who have gotten out and have just gone home without a job secure, like that scares me. Like, I don't know, like just the unknown of not having money on the table, money coming in to put food on the table, to put a roof over our head. That's really nerve-wracking. And I know for my type of personality, I don't know if I could do that. Like I would be freaking out. I was freaking out moving here and not having a house 2 weeks before we moved here. Like I was sweating bullets, y'all. Like I was just like, we're gonna like get up there and we're not gonna find a house. And thankfully we found a house. It fit perfectly. It was in our budget. But I was sweating bullets until I had that lease signed and that deposit sent in.
But we were the same way, because like when okay, so I think it was like June, July, like we're like, okay, everything's great, it's good, and then like I'm like, oh my gosh, we have a month left, and I started like panicking, and not because like financially we weren't set up or all this other things. Like I think just knowing that like we are leaving the military, and like July 15th rolled around and he's like, this is my last paycheck, and I'm like, oh wow, like and it's not even like I said, it wasn't even like a financial thing, it was just like those words and like knowing that this chapter is closing. But I will say, like, now that we're on the other side of it, like it's amazing, it's great. Still trying to navigate like the VA. I don't know if that'll ever be like something that gets
fixed. Like that is always going to be an issue for any veteran, no matter what.
It hasn't gotten better on our end, so I have no advice either.
But we use this app. It's called Military Retire. It's just one word, Military Retire. And it was pretty accurate. So we were able to like really look at, and there's other calculators, like what his retirement was going to be, what he was going to be bringing in, and like just formulating a budget. And I think like, preparing, because you don't get that last paycheck. They keep it to audit it. And then like if you're selling back leave, they hold that as well, to audit everything, and then they'll pay you out for it. But I'm hoping, I don't know, we haven't got our first retirement check yet, so I can't say everything's good there.
I definitely think like that's something I feel like that's not talked about either, is like,
No.
you know, yeah, you have all these options like to, your leave dates to get money back, but they don't tell you, okay, well, I mean, they may tell you, but I feel like it just depends on who you talk to, because again, it's the military. We all know that they are not always upfront with everybody. And, having, if you're not ready for that, that could be a huge blow. Like if your spouse isn't working and you guys don't have another income coming in, like it's definitely something you have to take into account for sure.
And I see that like on, like I said, the Facebook groups, like you have spouses that are like, my husband's been in for 25 years, he's retired, and we haven't gotten a paycheck in 4 to 6 months. Now he has like a job or she has a job, like, but there's no retirement income. And I don't know where the disconnect is for that, but I would really like to find, I know on the Navy side, I don't know how it is in the Army and the Air Force and the Marines, or Space Force or any of those, but I know on the Navy side, for my husband, when he was on terminal leave, and he called because he's like, hey, I have a check pending for the 31st. It's supposed to, and I'm like, something's wrong. Like, all these red flags go up and you're like, what is going on? And then you're like, somebody actually physically had to switch him from terminal leave in the system to retired, which is like mind blowing. We have so many IT processes in the military, and you can't come up with something that just automatically switches them over.
Switches you over? No. But I feel like that is like a huge issue in the military in general, is finances. Like, pay's not right. We're not getting BAH. We're not getting
all the time
active duty pay or whatever, all those things. Like I feel like that there's always so many issues with that. But for it to take 5 to 6 months to get your first paycheck afterwards, like that's
something you're relying on. You're like definitely
like,
expecting to be like, okay, we're gonna transition. This is where the money's gonna go. And
I'd be calling every day being like, get me my, like, I don't care who I need to talk to, I mean, I'll come see you too, but that's a long time. And no wonder there's such a huge issue with veterans when they get out of the military, whether it's, depression and things like that, because that's stressful. That's stressful for just one person, but that's stressful for multiple people to deal with. And I mean, I could see the connection there.
Like Heidi was saying, I won't go too into the VA, like getting your money from the VA, but that's been a stress. I mean, we've been out for 7 years and we still haven't really gotten that figured out entirely. Like it's always a mess, and it just never, you have to go through so many hoops. Dustin got stuck in like, he got all of his medical like appointments done, had all of it written up. It was all ready to go. And then he deployed, or he submitted it and deployed, but the paperwork came back while he was deployed. So you have like a very, very small window to like sign this, like days. I can't sign it. He was deployed. There was no way to get it to him in time. So then all that went down the drain, and he was going to have to restart it all again. So it was just like, wow, there is so many reasons why
you couldn't have signed that with the POA.
What's that?
Could you have signed it with the POA?
I didn't have one because his deployments were only 3 months, so it wasn't something that we really see. There was never really a need.
I'm a huge advocate, whether they are on deployment or not.
I'm not sure that with the VA that would have been something they would have allowed me to do.
I don't know.
Probably not. They're really big stipulers. I
don't know. You can buy a house with a POA. I feel like
a lot of them would cover medical stuff though, because that's just like,
I think you would have to have like a special POA. Like there's specific ones out there, but I'm a huge advocate. I told Jeremy, like he left when they had that first rapid deployment, I was like, I want a POA always on my like desk with your permission to do things. Because what if something happens? Like I need to be able to handle things. And I won't be able to do it if it's in your name. So a lot of times everything's in my name. We just always just put everything in my name, or at least my name on the account. But, he just bought a motorcycle. I can't do anything with that. I'm not on the account. So
that's why you're not on it. He's like, she ain't taking this back.
No, I won't take it back. He likes it too much. I told him he can get one. We talked about this in previous episodes, but But
That's awesome.
after seeing other issues with other spouses through in rapid deployments and things like that, like not having access to a bank account, not having, being able to call their landlords and things like that, their landlord would talk to them because their name wasn't on the lease or whatever. I'm just huge advocate. Get a POA. If your spouse doesn't trust you with the POA, then maybe you should go to marriage counseling.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if you feel like you're not going to give your spouse a POA to have access to something that they would need access if you deploy or got injured, or I don't know, we're in the field and something crazy happened and they can't get a hold of you, like JRTC, it's important to have that. So, and I feel like even after retirement, like I feel like I should have a POA forever. Even
No,
after
like Navy Federal won't let you like even though I'm on the joint account, like they're really like big stipplers. So like he had actually physically, even though I have a POA, he had to go in and like sign a POA just for Navy Federal. And it's interesting too, Navy Federal
to like
switches
close
from
the
like
account or to put someone on the account.
just to do anything with the account. Like they're really big stipplers about that. I don't know if the Army has like a specific, I know that Navy Federal serves like all branches, but I don't know like, but and then like your account switches from like active duty status to like a retired status, and same with DFAS. So that's my little plug too. Like with DFAS, like a lot of people use their cat cards to log into DFAS and they don't ever like update their PIN or their actual physical password. You really need to have your physical password like set up so that when you retire you can log in with that, because you'll no longer have a cat card. And then they set you up with like an active duty account and then a retired account, and you want to make sure that your retired account is like showing like somewhere around retirement, because if not, like that's more of a red flag, and then you get to call them and stay on the phone for hours.
That doesn't sound fun. Never, anytime you have to go to, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I haven't called TRICARE, because I was like, I just don't want to get on the phone for a really long time. But I know I have to do it because I have to go get Devlin into the doctors to get his prescriptions and stuff. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of questions out there. I feel like social media is great nowadays because you can find those Facebook groups of like, retirement how-tos and things like that. I feel like those definitely went around 10 10-ish years ago, things like that. So definitely utilize those platforms, seek out those nonprofits or those other programs that are out there to solely help veterans transition. And just, take it day by day, but like also have a plan, like really have a plan. Like it scares me. I'm scared for you.
I was going to ask you is, I know that you guys are, you're staying in the same place. And so your life isn't drastically changing, but do you feel like you are losing an identity? I mean, it's something that you've had for 20 years until like, you're not part of this. I mean, you are, but you're not in the same.
Yeah, I did go through that like at the beginning of the year. Actually, I had like a full-blown like meltdown crying because I was like, I don't even know who I'm gonna be anymore. Like, this is all I've ever known. I mean, I was active duty, and then like, the military is like all I've known. But I've kind of come to terms with it because I know so many people that are still active duty, and then I know so many people that are retired. I think like you're kind of able to provide that perspective on both sides. So, and then staying here, I think honestly like helps because so many people move away and they're like, we don't have that connection anymore. You know, I think staying here has like really helped a lot because we still are like in a military friendly community, and there's so much like military here. So you don't really feel like you're not, you know what I mean? Like not involved.
Yeah.
But I did have that like whole like I don't even know who I'm gonna be now. Like, like I'm not sipping that Kool-Aid anymore. Who am I?
And I think it is an issue in getting out and retiring because you become, some people don't get that involved, but all three of us have been very involved with the military community, and you're part of it. And we've talked about that. Like you're never not part of it anymore. And it's just a transition that you now are the veteran community, right? Like you're part of a different part of the military community. But I don't know. I think that transitioning was kind of fun for us because I like the veteran community a lot. They care so much for each other that it's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like it's a different mindset for sure. I'm definitely nervous about. I mean, I'm already I've been here for what, 2 weeks, give or take, in the mountains of Virginia, which is not a military community, and I'm already going stir crazy because I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself, because normally I would be, doing a deployed love event or volunteering for another organization or doing something with a spouse or something like that. And I'm like, this is going to be an interesting 2 years, but I also feel like it's going to set me up for retirement, because we'll do this 2 years, have 3 years at another assignment, and then we retire. So, and then we won't be near military installation. So I'm definitely going to be, I feel like I'm going to have an identity crisis when we finally get out, and just be like, what am I going to do? Like, it'll be
I think,
very,
yeah, just finding places to plug yourself in, like that you can still give back, like that's been the biggest thing, I think, is just like kind of sitting back. Right now we're like on this, like, just take a breath and like, figure everything out. Like what do we want to do, like vacation wise, or like, the unknown parts. I think at the end of the day, one size does not fit all, right? Like you have all these resources, you have everything, but it doesn't always fit every single person. So figuring out what works for your family, and then just rolling with it and really having a plan. Because honestly, if we did not have a plan, I cannot imagine that we would be like progressing like positively, right? Like I think I'd probably be drowning in tears. I don't know.
I feel like a plan is really important. Like, at least have one solid plan for one of you to have a decent paying job to get you through for at least the first year.
Yeah.
And then also, I feel like at this point, like at that 20-year mark or afterwards, depending on when you retire, I feel like we're all ready for a slower pace, more like, yeah, okay, you can go work 9 to 4, 9 to 5 at Home Depot. That's fine. I'll see you every night for dinner at 6:30. Or, yeah, we can actually plan a vacation. Like, we don't have to wait until 4 months before the vacation, like block leave, to confirm what days we get to have block leave to plan a vacation, which, usually those time frames are the highest times of travel for during the year, Christmas time, or 2 weeks in the summer around July, the busiest time of the year for places. And a lot of times you don't want to go to those places, but now you can plan, that first week of November, or, however maybe. And I think that's the most exciting thing for me that I'm looking forward to, is having the possibility of, we're not on this timetable of what the Army wants us to do, what we can and can't do, or what he can and can't do, or having to explain to family, we can't come because he's, on a 50-mile restriction. We can't come because he doesn't have leave, like he can't take leave because of X, Y, and Z. And no matter how many times even people who have been in the military, they forget after they retire, they forget what it was like during, I mean, maybe not everybody, but I know for sure my parents for sure are the worst culprits for this. But like, why can't he come? I'm like, because he's still active duty and he's on, IRF or whatever, things like that. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most for retirement, is having the freedom to do what we want to do when we want to do it. I think that's
exciting. Yeah, I would say like not having to put like a routed chit even just to go like out of a certain radius. I don't know how the Army is about that, but the Navy, you have to do that. Like if you're going out of a certain radius, you have to route chits and do all this stuff. So it's kind of like, okay, we can just go away for the weekend and not have to do anything. Or
you have to ask for permission. You don't have to ask for permission as an adult to be like, hey, I'm gonna go. Yeah, because I think it's 200. I think the Army, I think it's like 250 miles, like,
that's something like that,
for leave. I think that's just probably across the board. So that way they know, like, okay, this person's getting on a plane, this person, things like that. But like, to not ask for permission as an adult to be like, hey, we're gonna go see my grandma, I need permission. Like, come on. Like, that will be, I think, refreshing to be able to just do whatever we want to do without like any of that.
Yeah, this past weekend we went to New Jersey and I'm like, you don't even have to put like a leaf chit in. We can just go. Like that was the real like I think that's when it hit us like, oh, we really can do whatever we want now. Like it's fun.
What are you guys really looking forward to, like, with retirement?
So for us, I think it's just being able to travel and do like we have like a little bucket list that we're writing of like fun things to do. So just being able to like travel's like big on our list. And
I
then
feel like
like
that's a big thing for a lot of people when they get out of the military.
yeah. And then he's coaching our daughter's softball team, co-coaching with another coach
Oh, see, that's
this
sweet
fall.
because
Yeah.
unfortunately they don't always get a chance to do that.
And he doesn't have to worry about like duty days or like overnight stuff or yeah, and none of
Working
that. It's
late
like
because someone lost a pair of
yeah,
goggles or whatever. Yeah, like yeah. That's
that
what I'm looking
that's
for in
like
my life.
that's the exciting thing, I think. Not having to figure out like, oh, who's gonna like help me with the kids, like run her to practice if I have a late night meeting or I don't know, like there's none of that. It's like we're just both here all the time. So my kids are definitely getting used to that. That's been like a really big learning curve for them because they're used to coming to me for everything. And now, like, my husband was starting to get a little butthurt in the beginning about that. He's like, why don't they come to me? And I'm like, well,
Right
they're not
here,
used to. Yeah,
unfortunately.
my son said that and it kind of stung a little bit. He was like, I'm just used to mom. And I think that was like a realization, like, you've been gone a long time. Like, so definitely trying to figure all of that out. But it's
Like
it's
it's just
cool.
figuring out your whole family unit. Like it's a whole
Yeah.
new like cycle. Yeah.
When you have littler kids, definitely. I think like as when you have adult children, it's like, oh, we'll just go visit them or whatever. But then when you actually are like trying to re-function as like a family unit, it's challenging but like exciting at the same time. So
Yeah. I can feel you on that one because it's on this ROTC program, Jeremy's gonna be home all the time and it's gonna be great. And it's gonna be one of those things where I'm just gonna be like, I have to make sure that I allow him to have the opportunity to do everything that I'm used to doing. And then not get mad at him when he doesn't do it. That's kind of been the key for me right now. It's just been like, you can step in, but he's just so used, but he's just been used to me just doing it because I've always
yeah.
so. But like him doing sports and stuff like that with the kids, like he's never had that opportunity to do anything with after school stuff because he worked 7:30, 8 o'clock every night when he was at Bragg. So, I think it's definitely a time that's scary, but a lot of us look forward to. But like you said, like I feel like there's not a lot of information out there, like the right way to do it, and you have to
Right.
do your own research. And if you don't do that research, then have a plan. Have a plan. I feel like I say that all the time. Have a plan, no matter what you do in the military life. Have plan A, plan B, and help throw in plan C, just to make sure you have all your bases covered because you never know what's going to get thrown at you. You never know what's going to happen. You just want to make sure that you're set up for the best for your family because every family is different. Every
Yeah.
unit's different. Every branch is going to be different. So, it's every base is different. You may have a wonderful VA or you might be at a VA that like it's just god awful and it's like, I don't know, picking nails, pulling your nails because like you can't get a straight answer from anybody. I mean, Sabrina said you guys have been 7 years still trying to figure out
That's crazy.
all your stuff. And I know people who have gotten like away with so much stuff at the VA. And I'm like, how did you get that? Like, how did you get 100% for that? Like,
Definitely use programs because there are
yeah,
people like Ashley, we met a lot through Cohen Clinic of the people that
yeah.
like willingly go out of their way to like sit with you and go through your paperwork and to make sure it's going to be accurate before you turn it in.
There's so many programs, and if you don't know how to look for them, just find a local program. Like, find any veteran nonprofit within your area. They're more than likely going to have connections with those other nonprofits to get you to the right person. or use LinkedIn, Google, or Facebook, and just search for things to them. LinkedIn might be a good spot to do searches because you'll be able to at least pull up a contact person and then
Yeah.
send them a message, veteran services or things like that. But Conan Clinic, even Conan Clinic, but even like at Bragg, they have a group called the Blueprint, Community Blueprint, which is pretty much everyone that came to that monthly meeting were veteran services or programs that had some type of service for veterans or military families. And every time I went, I was like, I didn't even know that was here. It's
There's
crazy.
so many.
So
And that's just the Bragg
you're,
area. Like,
yeah,
I've never
I
even
mean,
heard of that. You said it's called Community Blueprint?
yeah, I don't know if they have it at other locations. I think that I don't know if that's just a Bragg thing, but there are people out there who like their sole job is to bring all those veteran services together within the community to make sure that the information is getting out because there's just Bragg itself, Liberty, Bragg always, sorry, will always be Bragg. There's people out there who job is to do that, but like I said, if you reach out to a veteran like business like the Conan Clinic is at a lot of locations in the South, so and they're virtual too, so you could always reach out to them and they'll be able to help you or get you to, like, especially with mental health services within your area. But there's so many programs. There was so many like homeless veteran programs in Bragg area that I didn't know
goat
anything
therapy.
about.
That was the one that I was like, what? This
Therapy.
exists?
Yeah, there's just so much. And there's a lot of places like, in Dallas. I know if you're in the Dallas area, there's a couple veteran programs there that I know about. Almost every major city is going to have a solid veteran program, at least one. And if you reach out to them, they'll be able to assist you in a way. Also, reach out to other veterans. If you know a veteran who's been out for a little bit, just be like, hey, man, ma'am, whoever it is, and just be like, hey, I'm really struggling in this area. Or you don't even have to say, just say, hey, I'm looking for a program to assist in helping my resume or finding a job or helping me with VA benefits or anything like that. And I'm sure you will find somebody, especially in today's, social media world. Like there's, it's much easier to put now Facebook has the anonymous
Yeah.
comment. You can go in and hit anonymous. And if you don't want someone to know you're looking for something, go into those groups, type your message up, post as anonymous, and you're going to get the information back. I definitely feel like that is kind of a bonus for social media. You guys usually hear me kind of not like social media, but it's a great way to find programs and utilize those programs that you know about. USO, my CAA, what are some other ones?
The VFW.
I know my
that's in,
CA is like,
every city.
VFWs, yes.
Mhm.
Like call VFW and just be like, hey, do you guys have do you know a resource for X, Y, and Z? And I'm sure you will be able to find something. Unfortunately, what's sad about it is that you have to do all the legwork. Like they're really, I'm pretty sure there is a veteran database somewhere. I know there is. I just have to remember what it's called, like a website where it's like a list of all veteran like nonprofits and resources. I'll have to find that one and we'll have to post it because I'm pretty sure there is one out there. Cause I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like I never heard of this. And it's just a website that like lists all the different services for veterans. I think I'll have to reach out to Stacy.
Yeah,
I think she would be the one to know. She'll know which one that is. But like I said, I mentioned Stacy, and Stacy's a veteran who does a lot of veteran work for people back at Bragg, and she's connected so well with other people. So if you find one person that's connected who has the heart to give back to veterans and their military families, you're gonna find the resource that you need. And like, I don't know, Sabrina and Heidi, you guys just said like the veteran community is great. Like they have each other's back. I know my in-laws are volunteering for a new nonprofit that started up in Greenville, South Carolina, who literally go out and just help veterans every day, whether it is mowing the yard, redoing a room or whatever it may be. They just go out and volunteer. And the amount of people that like comment on those posts and stuff like that, because they added us to the group, is astounding. Like, veterans are going to have veterans backs. You just have to ask for help too, though.
Yeah.
So,
well, I will do the research, and when I put up the show notes, we'll have definitely the list of anything we've talked about. Heidi's mentioned a bunch, and we've talked about a lot of resources
Yeah.
in the show notes. So that'll be something that you guys can peruse as well. But I really appreciated you coming on. I know that I feel like when you retire, when you're in the process or just getting out of the process, you remember all the details, and then it's like you let it go, right? You got done, and you're like, I don't want to think about it. So it's nice to have someone who just went through the process to kind of give us an idea of how it feels to go through it. So we always ask military spouses towards the end of our episodes, like, what is your one advice? And instead of for a new spouse, what is your one advice for that spouse that's dreading it? Like, it's coming up and they don't know what to expect. What would be your advice for that spouse?
I think just be flexible, because in our minds, we all have this like idea of what we want our spouse's retirement to look like, whether it's like this huge party or this huge like ceremony. And not all spouses want that. Some just want to walk away quietly. Like, and I think just being flexible in the whole process, because every day that you're moving along this journey is like an unknown, and a lot of things pop up. So flexibility is like the biggest thing, and giving yourself grace, because leaving something that you've either known for a short time or even a long time is really hard. I mean, this is all we've ever known. So leaving it wasn't easy, but like just giving yourself grace and knowing that like there is better on the other side.
Yeah. Always the biggest word. We hear that every single time when we talk to military spouses is grace is the word. You have to, a military life is never going to go the way you expect. And you just have to have grace, or you're going to overdo it. You're going to be so stressed about everything. And so definitely you hit it on the head there.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so good to see both of you.
It was great
no,
chatting
we miss
with
your
you.
face.
And I hope that anybody who's listening to this, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. I'll have some of Heidi's information available too, so you can talk to her. Our next episode is going to be about finances. So we kind of talked about it a little bit here on the retirement spectrum, but it is definitely on our minds. I think everybody currently is kind of looking at the finance world. So we are lucky enough to have someone from the Heroes Financial that is coming on to talk to us about how we can budget and how we can work on that with our next episode. So we look forward to hearing from them and seeing you guys all back next in 2 weeks. And like we like to say as we end, Ruck Up Buttercup.